All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Dipi here, and today we will be continuing with our discussion on Chapter 6, which is partitioning. But before we do that, just a heads up. Today is going to be. I'm thinking it might probably will be a short session because we want to have a hard stop at like 8:35, and I want to draw a plan for the upcoming sessions along with the Wednesday ones. So ideally, if we can come to a conclusion on how we want to, have our upcoming sessions, that would be great. So just want to keep some time for that. Um, with that being said, let's get back to the chapter here. So last time we started with this chapter 6, and I see this chapter in 3 parts, right? One is talking about partitioning approaches. One is secondary indexes, and the third is the rebalancing aspect. So last time we started by talking about how partitioning and replication go together in a distributed system. You all can see my screen, right? The Google Doc where I'm showing the picture.
Yes.
Okay. So we talked about how, so in the book, there's an example, which I'm showing here, where the author is basically showing how you can have a single leader replication model within a partition. So that was just for illustration. And in the Wednesday sessions, recently we covered this Dynamo paper, which also reinforces the same idea that how they are using replication along with partitioning. So that's something to keep in mind. And then we started with partitioning approaches. And right now here I'm showing key-based partitioning. But anyone wants to go over the 2 partitioning approaches we talked about? Just at the high level, can you summarize? I mean, we talked about 2 approaches, right? Key-based and hash-based. So I don't know if how many of you attended last week's session, but even if you didn't, right, intuitively speaking, if you want to split your data, like in this figure, right? Let's say you have 12 partitions and you have your data set belonging to this, English set A to Z. How would you do that? Anyone, like, I'm sure, I believe everyone would know this. Last time we had like.
So like I remember something like, key based actually usually you can do something like alphabetically you can have a range, from
Right.
yeah. But for hash based you can do with a hashing.
Correct.
Yeah, hash index. But so there are pros and cons in both of them, because in hash you cannot do a range based queries,
Right.
and in this actually you can do a range based queries, but hash is faster, I would say, okay, in terms of accessing and all that. But for Keybase, yeah, I think that's the only I could remember. Yeah.
Right. So the idea is, was it Santosh or
Yeah.
names? Yeah. Thanks, Santosh. So yeah, so the idea of key-based is just based on your data, you split it. The only caution we need to take care is we have to be cognizant of the data, right? Actual data set. So there might be a lot of values between A and B versus the values at the tail end, like XYZ can be very small. So you can't just blindly go ahead and put 2 keys in each partition. That would make it skewed. That was one. And what we also talked about another challenge in this. So what I just explained was data skew. The other challenge we also talked about was if you partition your data by timestamp, then you can have like a skew in terms of access patterns. Like one partition is getting loaded, written all the time within a single day, right? So you have to be basically at the high level. You have to be careful about your actual data set. And So to avoid some of the challenges there, right? Like all the values from A to B are going in one partition, there can be data skew and all of that. There comes hash, which like Santosh explained, that you actually hash your key value and you spread it out. So even if the value is starting from A, it can be spread out across different buckets. But the challenge we talked about is this one, right? You are hashing your values. So now you are also like spreading them out. So their sort order is lost. And I think we covered till this point last time, where we talked about the solution about compound primary key in Cassandra. So you take a part of your key that you use for hashing, and rest of it can be used for range queries and sorting. So can quickly somebody talk about if I create a partition like this based on these two keys. So I create a hash based on user ID, and then, well, I have it here though. So, I mean, in this example, I'm saying that if I want to find all the updates that are ordered by timestamp for a particular user, you can just go to that partition and get that. But the question I have for you is, I think this is where we kind of stopped. As a quick recap, can somebody talk about what if I want to, if I have this as the partitioning scheme, and what if I want to actually query data based on, okay, give me the last, 10 values sorted by, I mean, based on the timestamp. So how would we do that?
So I think we would have to go through each and every partition and look for those timestamp ranges, right?
Right.
And then you will have to do some sort of merging.
Exactly. So yeah, because your partitioning is based on user ID, so you can't just hit one partition. You have to go through all and then collect your results. And in some books, they specifically call it scatter-gather approach. So just a terminology.
Okay.
Yeah, so now moving on. So we talked about key range partitioning, and we said, okay, there is data skew possibility. Then we said, okay, hashes can help to alleviate a part of it. But as one can argue that you can't really avoid it completely, right? For example, they have given this scenario where all the reads and writes are for the same key, right? So all the requests end up being routed to the same partition. In that case, what are our options, right? I mean, I have it here, but anybody wants to go over it? You understand the question, right? That even if we are using hash-based partitioning, you might be hitting one or two partitions more than others. So how can you avoid?
Okay. So do something like a rehashing if they're coming the same pattern. I'm just thinking louder.
Yeah. So rehashing, you're saying basically create another level of hashing and then do that. That might be like, if you already have your data partition, how would you do like, first of all, in my view, I'm thinking that it can solve like one step, some of it, but still the overall problem, right? Since we are based on hashing, you can land in this situation.
Can you, I still not understand what the issue. Can you explain?
Yeah, the issue is that, so if you take hash-based partitioning, right? You're taking the key values, hashing, and based on your hash value, you're putting them in the partition. The question here is that even though using hashing, you're trying to spread your data, but it might happen, what if, the keys you're getting, let's say you're trying to, find, read, or write, they're based on their hash function, right? Or something like they all requests end up in the same partition, right? That's still a possibility. Do you agree?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, one point is definitely the quality of hash function comes into place, right? We have to be careful about how can we minimize collisions, and that's a different thing. That's about the layout. but this is more like at real time, right? Your requests are such that they are hitting still, even with hashing, they are hitting the same thing. So one of the solutions they have talked about, it's an interesting perspective, because if I had not read this, I would always think in terms of what do I do with my partitions and at the data storage level, right? But the solution they have offered is at the application level. So what they're saying is, if you know a key is known to be hot, then you basically artificially induce a random number at the beginning or the end, and then that will make it, spread out. So this is more of a decision you do kind of dynamically, knowing your access patterns. And if you find some keys are hot, then you kind of, you know, tweak them so that they are spread out to different partitions. Does
So
that?
you mean to say even the writes will be spread out to different partitions?
Yes. Writes will be spread out to different partitions, but the challenge is that now your writes are spread out. So for reads, again, you land into the same challenge that you would have to query all these partitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to read, but that's like, I think the scenario with distributed systems. You're not really shooting for an optimal one, but you're trying to address different scenarios in a most.
So let's say you generate a key, right? And you say randomly pick some digit and append it to the key so that end up in different partition. Then, when do the read? How does it know? Because with the read, it only give the same key, right? How does it know like what random digit that you append to that key so that can go to different partition to get it?
Right. I don't have it here, but in the book, you would see they exactly address the point you highlighted, Leon, that the benefit is you're spreading your writes, but during reads, you have to take into account that, okay, there was this 2-digit, append that you did, and that led your data to be spread across, like X number of partitions. So you have to follow a scatter gather approach again. You can't just directly hit. First of all, the same key will be, because of this 2-digit number, will be, going to different partitions, right? So you have to be careful. You have to query all the partitions to get your data and combine it. But having said that, you won't follow this approach for all the keys. You will be very careful that you follow this only for a handful of them, right? It's kind of mentioned in the book, because as you see, right, this is not what you want to do. You don't want to do this scatter gather approach all the time. That's going to add overhead. So they have given this example of Twitter post by a celebrity, and people are commenting and following, that person. So that person's ID becomes like a hotkey. And if you're, partitioning by the ID, then it's definitely not a good idea.
Yeah, so you mean to say like the writes will be faster, but the
Yes.
reads might be impacted, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but what happens when now they are all spread out because of this
Yeah, random number.
random hashing? But after you're done with the hotkeys,
Right.
so does it normalize back again to the original
Yes.
partition?
So exactly. So because it's application based, so you will have some logic in your application which only triggers this random number append logic for a handful of, right? So you are not really making changes to your data layer. You're making changes to your, triggering this change from your application layer. Right?
Okay. So this is just for a temporary basis there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. I agree. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, kind of the application layer have its own, database, a small database, kind of, because it now that you remember like all that.
I mean, there might be, but
2-digit
that would
random.
be, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're talking about a handful of keys that it has to manage, I mean, that's more like keeping track of making some list or something, right? Or having some pattern to define what's hot key. Yeah. But what's neat here is what I liked when I was reading this is like till now we have been thinking about this partitioning approaches from the data layer, like data storage layer. What can we do there? But suddenly now we are switching gears and we are trying to think out of the box and going even to the application layer. So,
but that is because the application layer know, they're gonna end up in the same partition, right? But what if the application doesn't know? Because only the application know the hotkey, right? On the other side, the database
no,
server.
so when you say application knows, right? If you try to map it with this celebrity example, right? Maybe if there is, that's where I believe the business logic, adaptation will come in. You have to keep track of like somehow that maybe have some another data structure which tells you, this ID is belonging to, a celeb, like let's say number of followers you have, right? So if you're a celebrity, you check your number of followers, and maybe that's how they define in the application. You can detect that if it's a hotkey. And there are in the book, they have mentioned that dynamically kind of switching, right? Which approach to take, like you're saying, Leon, like for the application to really trigger that logic, there has to be additional logic built within the application, right? And how do we kind of trigger it and all of that dynamically? That is also an interesting area that people are exploring. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to actually identify the celebrity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in some cases, why not we put all the celebrities, in a different shard? So something like that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, right? You can follow these approaches where you are maintaining a small, like, partition for just keeping track of this, what is hot, right? But I think what they're also, you can also think about this as not a static pattern. What if suddenly, one person who was not very active or, posting something and some event happened and this person is suddenly, in your hotspot now. So that person might not be in your static database, but you are kind of monitoring the access patterns, and based on some threshold, maybe you're triggering this logic.
Absolutely. That makes sense now. Yeah.
I think one question which I think asked earlier, but what if the hotkey is not hot anymore?
Right.
Then do we normalize the technique like adding a 2-digit number, or we still continue because it was
No.
hot historically at some point?
No, I think it would be more, you would normalize back to, the.
But wouldn't the data now for that key is stored on some 100 partitions? So
Yeah,
there will be
I
background
think-
processing to make it like.
Correct. So that's a good question, right? So if at one point you detected this is a hotkey and you're spreading your load, now at a later point when there is not much action going on, can we go back to our original thing? Yeah, I think we have to have some.
I think that'd be fine because that's the application control, right?
Yeah, but I
not
think-
the database control. So
No.
you know when it's hot. Then when it's hot,
That is
you have
fine.
your
That
own-
is fine, Leon. But I think
Yes.
my question is, once the data is spread for a key, at the application level, I can play all the tricks to kind of modulate it, right?
Right.
It is more like if later on I switch my strategy and I go back to my original partitioning approach because it's no more, this key is no more hot. But I know that at one point in the past, I have spread the data for that key across partitions, right? So I can't go, if a read request comes, I can't just say, okay, this key is no more hot, and I can just go to one partition because I know.
So it hot or not, it's because in the application, on the application side database, you generate whether you generate the random key or not, right? Suppose right now no longer hot, then you don't generate that random key and append to it.
Exactly. No, exactly. So you're talking about the right approach. But what, I mean, right as in writing to the database, but I'm saying that her question is more about reading, right? Like where do you go to read the data which was previously written to multiple partitions? So
The reading would be the same, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Because
so
if
my
you generate the random key, when you read, you will read from those, right?
exactly.
But if
So
you
I
don't
think
generate that, you still read from a unique, key. So you get a single data.
so I think yeah. So I think if you have I mean, on the top of my head, I can think of like similar to what Leon is saying. One thing is maybe you can do scatter gather again if you know that you have done this pattern, but still it will be cost overhead. The other idea is at the in the background if there is a way to kind of pull it all together. Um, but that's a good question. I mean,
Yeah, I think that was not in the book, but just
yeah.
was like out of
No, definitely, interesting thought there.
So,
So let's say
for the
normally, let's say if it's a hot, just to give an example, when it's a hot key, right? When you read the record with a hot key, what would you do on the application?
You would hit the different partitions.
Yeah, but first, you not saying hit a different partition. First, you have to regenerate the hotkey along with that two-digit random number, right? That's on application side. Once you get all that key, then when it go to database, that make no difference because database, already see that as a unique key. It no different on the database side. So on the application side, you have to regenerate, or look up your own database to query those key first. So in case of the hotkey, when you query, your own the application database, you might get like list of 10, key, and you go that you that 10 key go to database to query 10 records. But when no longer hot, you use that key to query your database, your own application database, you get only one single key back. Then you use a single key to query your database, that you get only one record back.
Yeah, and I think that's the only way to make it deterministic. Otherwise, just putting two random digital numbers and just writing it to any of those partitions. I mean, it looks easy, but it's gonna be a painful.
There would be a lot of challenges, right? Like one of the ones that
Yeah, so one approach in my mind is like how you follow the rebalancing.
yeah,
So basically, first in this case, let's say when we are splitting the load between different partition, then somewhere in the request routing table, when you are reading, you will
yeah,
store that for this, you need to go to these multiple partitions to get the data, right? For scatter gather.
right,
Now, when you have to rebalance and merge the data, if the key is no longer hot,
right,
then for your read, you will keep the routing table same, and you will in the background merge the data, and your write will
exactly.
now only go to one of the shards.
Yeah,
And
that is
in
what.
the meanwhile, you will be in the background merging the data. Once the data is merged to that one shard, and anyways, now your writes are pointing to that one partition now. So now you will update your request routing table to say that
Exactly.
now your read will go to only one partition, and that's how you have rebalanced.
Yeah, that seems like decent.
Then again, the request routing table is gonna be hot, right?
What? I'm sorry, what?
I mean, now the partition is not hard. The request routing table has become hot.
Request routing table changes whenever you change the configuration.
And
So
also
whenever,
the request routing table, I don't expect it to be as heavy, right, as the actual like database. Maybe you can just store it in like a hash map thing, like okay, this key, these 10 partitions, right? The size of
yeah, and these request routing tables are also replicated so that they can balance the load on them if needed.
Hmm.
yeah, interesting,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's a good one. Yeah, Abhishek.
I also think like each key when we generate it associate, we also have a timestamp, right? Then
I mean,
when we know, at the window we know there's no the key no longer hot, then
Yeah, that's a strategy talking about how to detect the hotness of
Yeah.
the and stuff. Yeah. All right. That's good discussion there. So I want to actually quickly wrap up the secondary indexes today, and it's not a big topic, and we have like almost like just maximum 10 minutes. So what they talk about here is, so far we talked about I have a key and then the corresponding value I can retrieve. So yeah, as long as you follow that pattern that you have a key, either you can compute the hash or you're looking directly by the key, that's all fine. You can get, okay, give me the car information with ID 214 and you get all of this. That's all fine. The question comes that now your search query is no more based on your key. It's based on one of the attributes in your actual data. So what are your options to facilitate search in those scenarios? And this is a similar concept from relational databases where you create indexes, but now later on you realize, oh, you know, I also need to query my data based on some other attribute for which I don't currently have a primary key index. So, and that's where the idea of secondary indexes comes in. So what they are suggesting here is, in addition to your core partitioning, you know, indexing approach, you can maintain secondary indexes using two approaches. One is document based and one is term based. So this example here is showing document based, where what they're doing is local to a partition, you actually create a additional data structure here, which says which indexes based on color and make. For example, that's what we have. And we can also index it based on location. That will be like another index here. But it's all local to the partition. So if a query comes in which says I'm looking for a red car, then it has to follow a scatter gather approach because your secondary indexes are local to the partition. So you have to query them and then combine the results, right? Does that make sense to everyone?
So you query them all.
Yeah,
You query all the primary key on the partition 0.
No, you
get all the
the partitions, right? You query, let's say if I say I'm not querying by primary key at all, I'm saying I'm looking for a red car. So my partitions are currently indexed by these IDs, right? Which is not relevant to my query at all. I am querying by color of the car. So I have to hit all the partitions and then look at their secondary indexes for the color red and say, okay, these two documents in this partition have this, you know, for this color. And in this partition, I have one car for that. So you collect results from all of them and then you know.
I see, yeah.
So it's
But you need to know upfront, like what you put in a secondary partition, right?
Yes.
Suppose what you need to read is not from the secondary partition.
So example here, right? So right now the secondary partition is based on color and make, right? You are having these two partitions.
Do you mean secondary index by secondary partition?
Oh yes,
it's not a secondary partition, right? Yeah, they're calling it partition by document, but you're building secondary indexes within a partition. You're furthering, basically read this as you are partitioning your document, your partition sort of, you know, section by, you know, based on your secondary indexes now.
What is the meaning of secondary partition?
Secondary partition?
Like Leon and you were saying.
No, I was wrong.
No,
I mean the
secondary index. Like,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, right now you have this secondary index built on color and make, but let's say later on you have a query which says, give me all the cars which are, you know, in the area, let's say Palo Alto, right? Now you don't have a secondary index on that. So what you would do is you would go ahead and add another secondary index based on location. So in this partition, it will be location Palo Alto, map to 191, right? Here it will be none. So you may have to add secondary indexes based on your queries, what you see. But these are another way. Like right now, for example, forget about adding a location index. Let's say you didn't have any secondary index, right? So you were having your partitions based on your primary key index. But later, as your queries start coming, you realize that, hey, I'm no more querying just by the ID, right? I'm also querying with other attributes. That's when you go ahead and build secondary indexes. Okay.
So this concept will be applicable for both SQL and NoSQL.
Yeah, and it's very much there in relational all the time, but this is how, in general, how you would map the same concept in NoSQL as well.
Okay.
And then they show that, okay, in the previous approach, you had to do this scatter gather. So can I minimize, what can I do further to optimize that? So the other idea they propose is build secondary indexes by term. So that you don't have to, navigate different partitions. So you actually combine, for example, color red, right? In the previous one, you had these two in the first partition and then another one. Now you bring all the, let's say you are saying, I'm going to keep red and black here and silver and yellow here. So that way you have all the data you need for a particular attribute in one partition. So that kind of saves you from doing this scatter gather approach. But on the other hand, to me, it sounds like more of a, like in databases, we say some operations, you are doing more work at the right time during writing and less work at the read. It's the same idea. You're doing less work while reading your data. You're just hitting one partition, but you're definitely doing more work when you're building that part, secondary indexes, right? Because you have to bring in data from other partitions and put it all together. So that's more work at the time when you are building this secondary index.
Yeah, try to see the advantage of putting them, all in one secondary index, because
So what happens here, right? When you're querying for a red car, you are hitting multiple partitions because the same attribute can be present in multiple, right?
yeah,
You have to first query all the partitions, and then based on the results you get from each, you have to put them together, right? So that can be, in general, the more partitions you have to hit and all this work of assembling the things is going to add cost. So what they are looking at this is, what if at the read time, if I can only hit one partition?
But
so
in
you say
the
at the right time they have to, instead
Yeah.
of writing to one partition, now you have to write to different partitions.
Yeah, you have to move your, like data around and create with different partitions when you're building this.
And so in this case, you lose the consistency, right? Because you're doing this, because you're doing distributed transaction. So for some time, your index might be stale.
That might be, yeah, that is definitely the case, right? When you're thinking about this replication and distributed, I would.
Another thing is like the scatter indexes, they are not like covered indexes, so we have to hit the both partitions anyway, right?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. What was the question again?
So I'm saying that you have to hit both the partitions anyway because the secondary indexes, they are not covering. So let's like I need red cards, then I say, okay, what are those exactly cards? We just refer to the base key. You're not referring to the actual data. So I still have to retrieve the data from both the partitions. So I'm hitting
Right. Yeah, you still need, same as the first approach too. You have all the primary key, then you have to go different partition to retrieve the data.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's a good point, right? So from here, you're only getting, okay, these keys, right? Primary keys. But these keys themselves, like 768, is in this partition, right? And then the 191 is here. So that's actually a very good point. And what you can do to kind of alleviate that is when you build a secondary index, the question is, should you map it to your primary key index or maybe the values that you need, right? So let's say I want to say, give me the make of all the, like give me all the cars which come in red color, right? Like give me the make of those cars. Then instead of storing this 191, you should store the actual values like Honda, Ford, and 768 is Volvo, right? So that you don't
Uh,
again hit multiple partitions.
that
Yeah.
may make the index very heavy, I think.
Yeah, so that's the difference between a covering and a non-covering index.
Right.
The covering index will just refer to the base of the key.
And again, it comes to, you have to really, you can't, indexes in general are considered heavy, right? Because you have to update them anytime your data changes. So you have to be very careful that what is your benefit that you're getting from building that index versus if you're adding more cost to it versus the benefit, right? So this is one area in indexes that yes, they improve the access, but they have their other, storage footprint and also the maintenance footprint, right? So you have to keep that in mind to justify the cost of creating index, right? But it's the
Yeah, I have a question.
yeah.
I'm audible.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, my question is regarding the relational database. In my relational database, there are the 10 columns,
Yeah.
and in the for example, I'm taking a MySQL DB. So here are the 10 columns, and the first column is the primary key. So
Okay.
I can search the data based on the primary key, and also I can search the data by passing in the by any column passing in the where clause.
Right.
So is it necessary that that we are searching the data based on which column that should be an index?
No, it's not like should be, right? But think about, I think we'll close our discussion today in next 2-3 minutes. But what, as a quick answer to your question, so you can definitely query any other non-primary column, just index. That's totally fine. But what you're going to do in that case is you're going through every row in the table, right? And saying, okay, does it match this value? If yes, put it in my result, otherwise not. So if you have, for example, 1 million rows, you have to query 1 million rows if you're
Right.
searching by non-primary. Now what secondary indexes do is, let's say you build a secondary index on that non-primary key column. In that case, you're going to have markers which tell you which rows to hit directly. So let's say you're searching by salaries, right? Salaries greater than, let's say 10K or something, equal to 10K. Then your secondary index will let you only hit the rows, right? Which have that value. So instead of scanning 1 million rows, you may be scanning just 1,000 rows, right?
Yeah. As per my knowledge, for the NoSQL database, this is a different scenario. Like if I take an example of the NoSQL database, like Cassandra. So we cannot search on any column until we make it an index column. So, but I think this is not the scenario for the relational database. So these two things are different, I think, for the relational and the MySQL. Like I just want to confirm that if somebody has the
I think you might be, I mean, we can take this discussion offline or continue about it from the next session because this seems to be a discussion. But definitely, I would say let's definitely, it's a good question. Let's catch up on it. Make sure you bring it up next time when we talk about it.
One
Sure.
question on the second approach. Does any system use the indexing by term? I mean, any database that use the secondary, I mean, indexing by term?
Indexing by term. Oh, I believe in the book there might be references. They usually give references to the production databases which are using it, but I don't have the list on top of my head. Yeah.
So
let's
I got the doubt where that some term might be popular and it might have the data might become larger than a single partition.
Mhm.
So what do they do in the cases?
So these are great questions. So I'm just going to take a note, and I would say I would also put it, like make all of us responsible for bringing this up next time in case I forget. But yeah, maybe let's go back to the book also if they bring it up. I don't remember they discussed this scenario. But these are good questions, right? So I have taken note of two questions. One is the how NoSQL and SQL do this, and second is hotkey for secondary index. But I would have to hold you guys from moving on with this because I really want to talk about the coordination for these sessions. So we wanted to do. Let me stop the recording.